Well, good morning and welcome to the LPSF. One of the things I always like to open with is to give thanks to the attendees, because I know your time is very valuable to you, and for you to choose to invest a day of your very precious time to spend with us means a lot to me personally, as well as to our entire Liferay team. This morning I want to talk about the history of Liferay. This year we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary, and as we do, I wanted to look back at some of the unique characteristics of our company that have allowed us to achieve success in the market, as well as take a look at where we see the company and the industry going in the next 10 years. So as I mentioned, we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. This is a photo from our annual company retreat, and as you can see, there are many different people that make Liferay as a company and product possible. We are now supporting 550 people. That's roughly 525, I think, different families that we're supporting through the business, because we do have many married couples who are also working at Liferay together. As you can see, one of the proudest accomplishments we've had in the last 10 years is that we are not a characteristically American company. Of course, we have about half of our people that are US-based, but for the size and stage of development of Liferay, we're very proud of the fact that our perspectives come from a global base of employees who can give us insight and perspective from the many different cultures in which we do business, including, of course, here in the DACH region of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We care very much at Liferay. This has been something personally important to me, to be very local to the places we do business. And so we have an office here in Germany since 2006. We're currently based in Eschborn, which is just about 45 minutes from here. But we've also opened offices all over the world, including our latest in Casablanca for the North African market, and Singapore for the Southeast Asian market. Over 10 years, we've also achieved some recognition from the analyst community. You may have already seen this report from the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant, where we have been named as a leader among very large companies like Microsoft, IBM, and Oracle in the portal space. And if you look at this report, Liferay is unique in that we are the only open source and completely independent vendor in this report. So what that means is that we don't have other products in a stack that we're trying to cross-sell, and we are not beholden to outside investors who would want to change the direction of the company or monetize their investment. Here is a separate report showing the open source vendors who have the most momentum in the market. You can see Liferay at number 16 here, and we are, again, the only company that has not taken money from investors. And many of our customers, especially in Europe, ask me, they ask us, what are the plans for Liferay's future? When are you going to sell the company to Oracle and IBM? And I've been able to stand year after year and say, well, we have no plans to sell, and this is a big reason why. And because of this fact, we are able, I believe, to make the best decisions for our customers, our partners, and our employees, balancing the need to make a healthy profit and to grow the business with the need to ultimately provide a service that's high quality, high value, and that's personally delivered. We get to see a lot of amazing different websites, intranets, portals that our customers build. This is one from a group called Banyan Tree in Southeast Asia. They just launched this website a few months ago. If you look at the site, if you have a chance, you'll find that it's completely responsive. It fits on any mobile device. It's also very a very immersive experience, and so they have video, they have a lot of rich content, and they were able to build this on Liferay. And that's something that we're very proud of as a company. However, I also wanted to point out the balance of this, which is enabled by our being open source, which is that there are also organizations like this one called Lo, which has made an intranet for disabled persons who have trouble using your standard interface to access the internet. And so they've created a new application that is using Liferay services to serve this disabled population. So on both ends of the spectrum, both the biggest well-known enterprises, like some of the names that you'll hear from today, including Deutsche Post and Adidas, but also these very small organizations are using a software that I believe provides the most value for money and time and investment that is on the market today. All of this would not have been possible without the support from you who are here in this room. And so, again, I want to extend a heartfelt thanks and my gratitude to you for supporting us, for believing in Liferay for the last 10 years. Well, it's fine to look at the past, but we're all here to think about our present problems and to look at the future. And so I want to give you a view into where we, as Liferay, believe the business, the software, and our industry is headed for the next 5 to 10 years. And the topic on everyone's minds today is, of course, digital business transformation. In fact, I've had some very lively discussions with my team here in Germany about whether this is a buzzword, whether it's just a trend. But regardless, I believe the underlying concepts that this represents are fundamental to what we as IT and business professionals will have to deal with for the next 5 to 10 years. So what do we mean by this? Well, when we talk about digital business or digital devices, we may often think of very sophisticated things like the Tesla electric car has made many headlines over the last couple of years. Elon Musk is, of course, a very interesting character. And if you've ever seen the inside of a Tesla, you can see that it's a completely revolutionary new way to think about an automobile. You may also think about wearable devices. Of course, the Apple Watch was announced earlier this quarter, and some researchers are even going further than the watch. This was a wearable suit that was developed by professors at the University of Eindhoven who were making frequent visits to Beijing and were so tired of dealing with the pollution that they wanted to create a wearable device that could monitor the pollution levels and have air filtration built into the device. Well, at the risk of seeming a little bit unserious, I wanted to present an example that is maybe much more prosaic and one that is much more familiar to all of us than some of these very exotic, far-off devices. Yes, this is an experience that we've all had, maybe privately or in public places. And where would digital business transformation fit into this scenario? Well, in order to understand that, first we have to look at the business process. So this, as with everything in life, involves a business process. And it roughly looks like this in most cases. You have a very regularized maintenance schedule. Every hour and sometimes every half hour, someone will come by to ensure that everything is in stock, that there aren't any spillages of water on the floor causing safety concerns, that the paper towels are there, and of course that the toilets are well stocked as well. And a lot of times when we think about digital business transformation, we take a very naive approach. Instead of actually transforming the business process, we simply put it in electronic form. So in our example here, you might take the same process and just put it on an iPad. And of course, this is of some usefulness because now the person doing the maintenance can just sign off on the iPad. It's all completely electronic. And so the existing business process is enhanced a bit by the fact that now you don't have to do a paper scan or whatever it is that you do. However, the kind of transformation that we want to talk about today, that the industry is talking about today, goes much deeper. It's about taking essential technologies that have become widely available, the cloud, mobile devices, location awareness, built-in cameras, big data, social. These technologies are actually enabling us to rethink and re-engineer our business processes. So in this example, imagine instead that before we even get to this state, when you've still got 2 centimeters of product left, that the dispenser actually uses internet technology to notify maintenance that there's going to need to be a change coming up soon. And so then you actually never run into this situation because the staff will proactively come and take care of the problem. And of course, then this begs the question, if we're not doing it on an hourly basis, how do we account for the fact that we had our maintenance worker going off and doing these other tasks during the time that they're not checking on the restrooms? And so these are the questions that we need to grapple with and we need to explore as we allow digital technologies to lead the way in transforming these processes. I want to take a couple more examples. One is from the education space. So, of course, you've all heard of online learning, massively online courses, and of course, many of you probably have an iPad or a tablet for your children where they may learn basic alphabet and math skills. But where else can we go beyond those very elementary examples? One thing that I considered was having a digitally enabled textbook. Currently, textbook publishers have a business model that relies on making their old products out of date. If you are parents or if you've gone through a school system, you may remember the 4th edition, the 5th edition, the 6th edition of a textbook. And often our teachers in elementary school would tell us, you know, if you already have the 5th edition, it's fine. And the reason for that was that the changes were so minor, and yet the publishers, in the interest of selling another batch of books, would make those minor changes and then, of course, convince the school districts to upgrade to the latest version. Well, if we instead didn't rely on new editions, but actually created some kind of a subscription service for a digital-enabled textbook, what would that look like? Well, first of all, it may have very personalized, adaptive learning for each individual student. So let's say, for example, that we have a student, let's just say his name is Steven, and he's a very active young child. And he's learning this math concept about fractions. And not only is he very active, but he loves to eat. And so when he reads through the first problem, he has no trouble imagining all of these kilograms of candy and really becoming immersed in this problem and wanting to solve it. And yet the second example is completely outside of his world. It has to do with music, of which he has very negative experiences and memories of his mother forcing him to practice every day before she realized she's more suited to be outdoors. And so this digitally enabled textbook, as part of its subscription service, can have adaptive learning that takes the same basic concept, but actually presents it in a different scenario. And so knowing that Stephen is very active and having learned from previous math topics that he responds better to sports examples, it actually updates and personalizes that content for him through the digital textbook. Here in Germany, I would be amiss if I did not give perhaps an example from the automotive industry. Let's imagine, first of all, that cars in the future will be internet connected. And so many of the things that we used to check very manually will be self-monitoring. Most cars that are built today already have built-in sensors for tire pressure and oil levels that can be accessed usually through the navigation system and the dash. But what if we can then send this information back to the service centers and create a new process that adds value to all of the parties involved? So we imagine a scenario where a digitally enabled navigation system in the car has been learning the patterns of the driver over time. And so they know that usually on Thursday afternoons, because of the schedule at their particular business, that he goes home a little bit earlier, around 5 o'clock, and that the route that he usually takes is right on the way of a service center for the Seat dealership. The service center also knows its schedule, and it knows that a week in advance from today, they had a last-minute cancellation, and so at 5:30, Mr. Schmidt, who was going to come in, is actually no longer going to be there. And of course, the service center wants to have as many bookings as possible, and it knows that this driver is having these issues that will become very serious in a week's time. And so bringing all of this information together, it offers directly in the interface that this person would expect to use for this situation a discount to book an appointment for next week on Thursday at the time that he usually would be going home anyway. This is a convenience to the driver. It fulfills the need to book appointments for the service center, and of course it enhances the overall user experience for Seat after the sale, which is something that not all of us always think about with much effort. So these are some of the things that we see coming down the pipe for various industries. I want to go a little bit deeper now into the practice of marketing and talk about how some of the same topics we've covered in the past around engagement, collaboration, and Web 2.0 are really culminating in this idea of digital transformation. If you were with us last year, you may remember the story of Mr. Rubinacci, whose great-grandfather was a trader in silks and fabrics, and whose family eventually opened up a high-end tailoring shop in Italy. And I used him primarily as an example of how mass media has really changed the way that we do business. Here at LPSF, it's possible for us to do to have one-on-one conversations with our customers and partners, but most of the time we're communicating over email. And if you are part of any of our marketing lists, you may also receive many emails that are somewhat tailored to you, but really for a larger audience. And the kinds of one-on-one relationships that Mr. Rubinacci and others like him may have had in the past are now supplanted by the mass media and mass markets of television and email and radio. I also highlighted that during this transformation, basically the practice of marketing and messaging had evolved. And so, whereas before you were having a one-on-one conversation, now you're actually shouting as a company, as it were, to your various constituents. And because none of us has time to have a one-on-one conversation with hundreds and hundreds of people, we developed concepts like segments and personas. We've come to the idea that anyone at the same life stage and with the same earning potential have very similar buying habits. And of course, this works better for some industries than others. Well, the internet, of course, is not a mass medium, but it's an individual medium. And instead of the internet being a channel for us to shout at people, it's actually a way for them to tell us very clearly and very strongly sometimes what they want from us. And Liferay, as an internet-based company, has experienced this quite fundamentally. This has also changed the way that we build websites. Before the internet, you could think of content as coming through very, very controlled channels. And now there's just so much content out there that most of us are probably fatigued of the many articles, videos, slideshows, webinars that are on offer to us. It used to be that as a business, you would really try to control the channel to control the minds and the thoughts and ideas of the people. But today, there's no way you can do that because people choose their own content based on what's relevant to them and what's interesting to them. So if we're building a website today, how should we do it? Well, Unfortunately, a lot of us still build a website like a newspaper, or we build it like a storefront. We build it for the casual passerby who may or may not have purchased that newspaper unless there was a gripping headline right on the front that would appeal to the widest audience. In the same way, a storefront is designed so that people who casually are strolling down the high street might fancy something in the window and stop in to see what's on offer. A lot of us experience this where business unit owners, perhaps your marketing department, your sales department, or your training departments, fight over that space on the website as if it's the single and only place that customers and prospects are going to encounter your brand. And yet, in the age of the internet, this is what our reality looks like. This is an Amazon warehouse, and Amazon, of course, is famous for offering anything and everything that you might be interested in. So I believe there are two shifts to the way that we build websites that are ushered in by the digital era. The first is cultural. And to illustrate that, I want to share the story of this gentleman who had a swimming pool business that in 2007, for obvious reasons, was going through some difficulties. And it afforded him the opportunity to completely rethink his approach to his web presence, which up until that point was your typical, very salesy, marketing brochure site that talked mostly about himself and how great he was. And he asked himself the question, how do I personally use the internet? Well, I actually go out there to find answers to my questions. And so the very simple thing he did in changing his website was to stop marketing himself and be useful to the people who are in this journey with him. He answered all of the questions that people might have during the process of purchasing a swimming pool. And one of the most salient examples that stuck in my mind was he had a page that listed all of his competitors and their pros and cons. What were the benefits and disadvantages of using that vendor? And he didn't include himself, but because that page of information was so valuable and relevant and useful to people who came across it, first of all, Google, because it got linked to many times, put it very high in the search results for all his competitors. So anyone looking for the name of one of these other swimming pool salespeople would end up on his website, and then gradually they would find other useful information on his website. After spending about 30 pages worth of time there, 4 out of 5 people would purchase from him. So I think the point that I'm trying to make is clear now is that your website is not a single storefront, but it actually looks like this. And you have the opportunity now with digital technologies to cater to certainly different market segments and personas, but if you do it well, specific individuals that are visiting your site. So at Liferay, we're starting to go on this journey. This is our general front page for anyone visiting liferay.com for the first time. But once you've spent some time with us, we figure you may be interested in meeting us in person. And so we offer you one of our many events around the world. And of course, in the future, this will be geographically localized. But we also have very specific web presences for different campaigns in different parts of the world for different market segments. And so this one is for the DACH region, for communicators whose job is to increase collaboration and knowledge management in their departments. We also have a small site for financial services targeted for the US market. And of course, you may have experienced that we have many small sites for the events that we do, including the LPSF. Because Liferay is fundamentally a digital portal platform, of course, you can also make a customer portal, you can make a partner intranet, you can make all sorts of things that tailor to each audience and each stage of their journey. But eventually, you need to bring that all together. And that's where we want to go for the next 10 years. So where is Liferay's future? Well, it's certainly not just as a portal. if I were to summarize everything that Liferay has done for the last 10 years, it's been solving this problem. We have too many systems and too many outdated ways of accessing them. And so Portal has been about providing the right people access to the right systems through a web browser for the last 10 years. Well, that's no longer really applicable for many reasons. First of all, you have the fact that now we are using many other interfaces, mobile apps certainly, but now, of course, the Internet of Things, Internet-connected devices of all kinds that are not only providing useful information to us, but providing relevant and timely information back to companies so that they can personalize the customer experience. And of course, we are well aware of the fact that we have many different audiences, but now we also want to tailor the information and experiences to the stage of the journey that they're in. So for Liferay, we believe it's no longer enough to do this, taking back-end systems and creating new silos where you can access that important information. What we want to do is create a digital platform that enables people on their journey to find the right information at the right time through the device and interface that is most convenient to them. And so we're going to do this by building on the traditional strengths that we've had up until now. Of course, all of the integration capabilities are there. Of course, all of the out-of-the-box functionality is there. But we can do actually a lot more on the technical side to make those services easy to access and reuse for your technical teams, building mobile apps, building independent JavaScript-based web framework applications, and building traditional portal-based apps as well. And so when you look at the technical roadmap of Liferay, this is the big picture. We want to support many, many other ways of delivering information experiences to the right people. And we're going to, of course, bring that all together because what's important is not that individual site or that individual mobile app, but how it all fits together. How does the fact that you're using Liferay's Events app and then later going to liferay.com and then perhaps later accessing our partner portal or our customer portal give us a better view into your specific needs as a customer of Liferay? These are the questions that we want to help solve with technology, but also develop the practice as a business in order to lead with thoughts and ideas that will help all of you. So as I close, I just want to address one nagging concern that you might have, which is, this is all good and fine, but we're clearly not there yet as an organization. We're still trying to add blogs and social capabilities to our intranet and dealing with the cultural ramifications of that because our employees are afraid to share. Or we're still dealing with double opt-in privacy policies on our website so that we can use some of these tracking capabilities, but not do it in a way that somehow loses the trust of our customers. And to that I would say, that's okay because this may be the future, but what leads to this is everything we've built up on until now. And that is not only your intranets and your portals and your websites, but all of the integration that you've already done. You can't present timely and relevant information unless that information is readily available from any and every system that you have in the back end. And so as we look to the future, I hope that as Liferay, as your business partner in this endeavor, we have adequately prepared you for this digital business transformation that we are all going to be on a journey together to explore and take advantage of. So thank you again for being here with us this morning. I look forward to meeting you later in the sessions and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So.